So he's backwards onto it. And at that point, once you're backwards like this, you know, where if you rotate too tight and then you have to come around like this, their first man is rotating out is hunting you. So if you're not immediately up for this, like you should be, and you go for this, you put yourself in a 2v1. So you could try to blame me as much as you can for bad touches, which some of them are partly true. Sometimes I do have a heavy touch. It's not exactly you're not exactly fully correct if you're just talking shit in the comments, because they should be in a position where they're already going for it, you know? That's why I'm like frustrated at people, because I can never establish an offense. I can never establish a proper defense because of that, a really good counterattack, because they're so pushing up my ass and wanting to play backwards. Nice whiff, Loosh. And they're wanting to play backwards versus why don't we just play a little bit slower, then rather than you rotating in so tight like this, rather than doing that, why don't you just play a little bit slower, play a little bit deeper on the diagonal, and then, you know, when I bait the flick, that now you have a really good run up to maybe activate me if I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, that's so much more useful. It's so much useful. It looks nicer. It looks cleaner. Your position is way more controlled. It looks more defensively solid. I mean, if they try to go for an exit bump on you, you could just slalom around because you got plenty of space, you know, versus going here, letting them have the free clear, which instead should have been matched by you going here if you played the position correctly, you know, and then playing backwards and then having to dodge possibly a bump from the first man rotating out. Do you get the picture? This is why I get really frustrated when, especially when I play twos. It's why I don't play twos at a lower level, and instead why I like to play threes. You know, but even then you still run into guys who do the layer, which then is third. You know, you got to make a square tackle into their 1-3, you know, in your matchup, and then you got to beat the next guy. I mean, it's just like it's a mess of its own. So essentially, just everybody just tends to have it wrong. This whole second man thing that you know, and if you go into any pro streams and you watch even Rizzo or Squishy on the initial push out, they're going to play pretty close in the midfield, and it's like that's okay, but it's a lot of the times you're going to really come alive by this bend and run and being able to activate that, you know. And so just be careful. You don't want to play so far back. And I've said this to a couple students before. Sometimes you guys know who you are, where they get so in their heads, and this is partly just the product of coaching. They get so in their heads about doing the wrong thing that they end up playing so far back that then when they need to actually go for it, they're not there. And then those guys that cleared it now get a second touch, which is not ideal. That's not what we're looking for, you know. So there's a very fine line. There's a very fine line. So you guys have seen enough examples, honestly. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's just mainly just you don't want to rotate in too tight. And honestly, don't force anything on the initial clear. Just wait for the structure to kind of build itself, and then the passing options are going to come alive naturally. Just don't force anything. It's so much simpler to just kind of let the structure take care of itself. And I mean, if just people knew that rather than just fucking immediately defaulting back and waiting here allows you to link up with them, it would be enough of a fucking change in Rocket League that it would honestly change the world. People don't know that for some reason. They just want to fucking default in these shitty 1-3 rotations or oh shit rotations that then they're not able to cut in and be able to really snuff these passes out, you know, when they do come in, and in a 3 sense that, you know, it's like something like this. And maybe maybe their second goes and clears it into this, which is kind of unusual, but sometimes it does happen, you know, and then they can't even turn on, versus if you're with a pro, they're going to be back here. That's literally the difference. You know, the guys are here, and then they're backwards like this, or they force themselves in this, and they overcommitted, and then the guy just fucking lands you know, a flip reset or a double touch, or just top shelves it, and then it's a goal. So avoid this mistake, okay, and just relax, and avoid anybody that tells you that you need to play fast.